Thankful to have this opportunity here on this Wednesday to be with you. And today I'd like to look at 1 Peter chapter 1. I've said many times as we've looked at the epistle of Peter under inspiration to the churches that he was writing, that these two epistles were written to prepare and to encourage the churches that were facing opposition and were going to face some great persecution in the days ahead. Tremendous help is given, especially in the first epistle, in regard to the opposition that they were facing. And it's very encouraging to see that. But in the midst of that, we have an admonition in verse 13. Wherefore, and this is chapter 1, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and hope to the end for the grace that is to be brought unto you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. How we think is really what we are. Our thought process, as the Lord talks about the heart, out of the heart proceedeth everything. And so if we don't have controlled minds, then we don't have controlled behavior. We don't have faith decisions. We don't have a life that can be used. And I like the imagery that's given here, the idea of girding up the loins. You've heard, I'm sure, this illustrated back then with the robes. If the men were going to run, if they were going to be effective, if they were going to fight, they had to take those long robes and tie them up and gird their loins so that then they were free to do whatever they needed to do. And so we need, by the grace of God, to gird up the loins of our mind. In other words, anything that inhibits us from running the race, anything that holds us back from thinking correctly, anything that's distracting, anything that's not pure, anything that is with wrong affection, all of those things have to be given to God, because if our thinking is dominated by that which is not really what's important at the moment, then we're not going to accomplish what we need to accomplish, and we're not going to make the right decisions. And that's why it says right after that, wherefore gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, think seriously. It has the idea of having your mind under control, not inebriated, not out of control. It needs to be under full control. Of course, that is by the power of the Holy Spirit. And in girding up the loins of our mind so that we're thinking right and we have that serious, controlled perspective, that then will help us to have confidence to the end for the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. In other words, we've got to think eternally. We've got to understand that life is not the here and now satisfaction and having things go the way we want them. But there's a much bigger picture. Jesus is coming back. We have confidence about our salvation and what eternity holds for us. So therefore, let's don't get distracted. Let's don't think about wrong things. Let's don't let our minds go down wrong lanes. Let's let the Spirit of God cause us to be sober, under control, so that we can think in a way that the Spirit of God can guide us and then empower us to make faith decisions so that the powerful grace of God can be in our lives. So I would encourage you today, if you want to stay encouraged, ask God, what are some of the distracting thoughts, discouragement, wrong kinds of thinking, the wrong maybe meditations that you have, things that you listen to or see that aren't the best. Get those all out of your mind and your heart. Let the Spirit of God give you the fruit of the Spirit, that self-control. And then you will begin to get that vision of what your life is all about. And so let's gird up the loins of our mind. Let's get rid of anything that hinders us, and let's run that race for Christ.